Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. In English history, few conflicts have shaped the nation's future as profoundly as the War of the Roses. This brutal dynastic civil war wasn't just a battle for the throne, it was a fight that tore families apart and plunged the country into decades of violence and uncertainty. At its heart were two rival branches of the royal house of Plantagenet, the House of Lancaster, symbolized by the red rose, and the House of York, represented by the white rose. Over nearly 30 years, these factions clashed in a series of fierce battles, each vying to claim the crown of England. In this video, you'll discover the complex causes that led to the conflict, the key battles that turned the tide, and the influential figures who shaped its course. We'll also explore the lasting impact the war had on the monarchy and the future of England. Whether you're a history buff or new to this dramatic chapter, get ready to dive into the story behind the War of the Roses. The story of the War of the Roses begins with the powerful Plantagenet dynasty, which ruled England for over 3 centuries. Originating in the 12th century, the Plantagenets established themselves as one of Europe's most influential royal families, overseeing a period of expansion, conquest, and complex political developments. At the center of this dynasty was King Edward III, who reigned from 1327 to 1377. Edward was a strong and ambitious monarch, and his legacy was vast. He had numerous children, which would later sow the seeds of conflict. Edward III's many descendants split into different branches, but two would become rivals, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. Both traced their claim to the throne back to Edward III, but through different sons. The Lancasters descended from John of Gaunt, Edward's third son, while the Yorks came from Edmund of Langley, his fourth son, as well as through the female line via Edward's second son. This complicated family tree created overlapping claims that fueled tension and rivalry. Before the war officially broke out, England faced significant political instability. Weak monarchs like Richard II and Henry VI struggled to control the nobility and maintain order, which led to factionalism and unrest. This instability was worsened by the long and costly Hundred Years' War with France, which drained resources and distracted the crown from internal problems. The war also left many nobles disgruntled and power-hungry, ready to exploit the chaos to advance their own interests. All these factors combined to create a volatile environment ripe for conflict. The stage was set for a dynastic battle that would engulf England in violence, shaping the course of its history for decades to come. The War of the Roses was fueled by a combination of political, personal, and social factors, all converging to create a perfect storm of conflict. At the center was King Henry VI, whose reign was marked by weakness and instability. Henry was a pious but indecisive ruler, and his frequent bouts of mental illness left a power vacuum at the heart of government. During his periods of incapacity, rival factions within the nobility vied for control, deepening divisions across the kingdom. One of the key causes of the war was the competing claims to the English throne. The House of Lancaster, led by Henry VI, held the crown, but the House of York challenged this legitimacy. Richard, Duke of York, had a strong claim through his descent from Edward III, and believed the Lancastrian king was unfit to rule. This rivalry was not just about family pride, it was a struggle for power and survival. Complicating matters further were the shifting alliances among England's powerful nobles. Many lords switched sides depending on their own interests, personal rivalries, or promises of favor and land. This created a chaotic political landscape where loyalty was often fragile and temporary. Economic troubles also played a role in heightening tensions. England was recovering from the financial strains of the Hundred Years' War and faced social unrest from the lower classes, who were affected by taxation and economic hardship. These pressures created an environment where noble factions could rally support by promising protection or reform. Two figures stand out as central players in this conflict: Richard, Duke of York, who led the Yorkist claim with military skill and political ambition, and Queen Margaret of Anjou, Henry VI's formidable wife. Margaret was a fierce defender of the Lancastrian cause, known for her political acumen and willingness to lead armies in support of her husband's reign. Their rivalry embodied the fierce personal and political battles that defined the war. Together, These causes created a volatile mix of dynastic ambition, weak leadership, and social tension, setting England on a path toward decades of bloody civil war. The War of the Roses unfolded over 3 major phases, each marked by intense battles, shifting power dynamics, and unforgettable characters who shaped England's fate. First phase, 1455–1461. The rise of York. The conflict ignited in 1455 with the Battle of St. Albans, the first major clash between the Lancastrians and Yorkists. This battle ended in a significant victory for Richard, Duke of York, who sought to assert his claim and influence over the weak King Henry VI. It marked the beginning of open warfare, as rival factions fought not just over power, but the very future of the English crown. Political tension was high, with Parliament and nobles caught in a constant struggle for control. During this phase, key figures like Henry VI, his wife Queen Margaret, and Richard, Duke of York, emerged as central players. While York gained ground, Henry VI's mental instability and Margaret's fierce loyalty complicated the situation, setting the stage for further conflict. Second phase, 1461–1471. Edward IV and Yorkist ascendancy. The war escalated dramatically. With the Battle of Towton in 1461, the largest and bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. Edward, son of Richard, Duke of York, led the Yorkists to a decisive victory, paving his way to be crowned King Edward IV. Despite this triumph, Lancastrian resistance remained strong, especially under the leadership of Queen Margaret, who continued to rally support for her husband. Another influential figure during this period was Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, famously known as Warwick the Kingmaker. Initially a key Yorkist supporter, Warwick's ambitions and shifting loyalties added layers of complexity to the conflict, as he briefly turned against Edward IV, further prolonging the turmoil. Third phase, 1471–1485. The final struggle, the P. Concluding phase saw Yorkist power consolidate with 2 critical battles, Barnet and Tewkesbury in 1471. These victories crushed much of the Lancastrian opposition, culminating in the death of Henry VI, effectively ending Lancastrian hopes for the throne. Edward IV's reign was restored, but after his sudden death in 1483, the struggle took a new turn. His brother Richard III seized power, becoming king under controversial circumstances. Richard's reign is shadowed by the mystery of the princes. In the Tower, Edward IV's young sons who disappeared under suspicious conditions, fueling rumors and intrigue that still captivate historians today. This final phase of the War of the Roses set the stage for the rise of the Tudor dynasty, which would bring an end to the long and bloody struggle. The War of the Roses finally came to an end in 1485 at the Battle of Bosworth Field, a decisive clash that would change the course of English history. Leading the charge for the Lancastrian cause was Henry Tudor, a relatively distant claimant to the throne, but one with a strong resolve to end the conflict. Henry had spent years in exile, gathering support from those disillusioned by the endless strife and the unpopular rule of King Richard III. On August 22, 1485, Henry Tudor's forces met Richard III's army near Market Bosworth in Leicestershire. The battle was fierce and chaotic, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The turning point came when key allies of Richard, including the powerful Stanley family, switched their support to Henry mid-battle. This betrayal tilted the fight in Henry's favor, leading to the death of Richard III, killed in combat and famously remembered as the last English king to die on the battlefield. Richard's death marked the end of the Plantagenet dynasty's long and bloody reign. Henry Tudor emerged victorious and was crowned King Henry VII, ushering in the Tudor dynasty. To symbolize the new era of peace and unity, Henry famously combined the emblems of the rival houses, the red rose of Lancaster, and the white rose of York, into a single emblem, the Tudor rose. This powerful symbol represented not just the end of civil war, but the hope for a unified and stable England. Henry VII's reign brought significant changes, including strengthening royal authority and establishing policies to prevent future noble rebellions. His victory at Bosworth Field closed the chapter on decades of dynastic conflict and set England on a new path, one that would lead to the Renaissance, religious reform, and the rise of one of the most famous royal families in history, The conclusion of the War of the Roses marked a profound turning point in English history, signaling the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and the rise of the Tudor era. With Henry VII's victory, England transitioned from decades of dynastic warfare to a period focused on restoring stability and consolidating royal power. The Tudors worked diligently to strengthen the monarchy, reduce the power of unruly nobles, and create a more centralized and efficient government. This shift laid the groundwork for the modern English state and the monarchy we recognize today. The war also had a lasting impact on English national identity. After years of internal conflict, there was a growing sense of unity and nationhood. Under the Tudors, the brutal struggles of the past served as a reminder of the dangers of division and the importance of a strong, stable monarchy. Over time, this helped foster a more cohesive English identity that transcended factional loyalties. The War of the Roses has been immortalized in literature and popular culture, most famously through the works of William Shakespeare. His historical plays, such as Richard III and Henry VI, dramatize the conflict and its key figures, shaping how generations have understood and imagined the turbulent era. These works contributed to the war's lasting legacy, blending history with legend and reinforcing its place in the cultural imagination. At the heart of this legacy is the Tudor rose, a powerful symbol of unity that combined the red rose of Lancaster and the white rose of York. Beyond its decorative use, the Tudor rose represented reconciliation and the hope of peace after decades of bloodshed. It became a national emblem, reminding the English people of their shared history and the hard-won stability that followed the conflict. In many ways, the War of the Roses reshaped England, not only politically but culturally, and set the stage for a new chapter in the nation's story, one defined by renewal, unity, and the rise of one of its most famous royal dynasties. Despite its name, the War of the Roses wasn't actually fought with roses, or even officially over floral symbols. The red and white roses became popular emblems after the conflict, used mostly by historians and later generations to simplify and dramatize the complex dynastic struggle. At the time, nobles identified more with their family crests and banners than with any particular flower. A fun piece of trivia involves Richard III, one of the most famous figures from the war. For centuries, he was portrayed as a villainous hunchback, largely thanks to Shakespeare's play. But recent discoveries of his skeleton show he did have scoliosis, a curvature of the spine, but not the exaggerated deformity of legend. This has sparked renewed debate about his true character and reign. Another interesting fact is about Warwick the Kingmaker, who earned his nickname because of his pivotal role in crowning and dethroning kings. His shifting loyalties dramatically influenced the war's course, making him one of the era's most fascinating political players. The War of the Roses also left a lasting imprint on modern politics and symbolism. The Tudor rose, combining the Awadsaik red and white roses, continues to be a symbol of unity and reconciliation in England, appearing in everything from royal badges to sports logos. The conflict itself serves as an early example of the dangers of political factionalism and the importance of stable governance, lessons still relevant today. So, while the war's history is filled with drama and intrigue, separating fact from myth helps us better understand this pivotal chapter in England's past. The War of the Roses was a gripping chapter in English history, a fierce dynastic struggle between the houses of Lancaster and York that reshaped the monarchy and the EC nation itself. We've seen how weak leadership, rival claims, and shifting alliances sparked decades of conflict, culminating in decisive battles like Towton and Bosworth Field. Key figures like Richard, Duke of York, Edward IV, Richard III, and Henry Tudor played pivotal roles, each leaving a lasting mark on the story. The war's end brought about the rise of the Tudor dynasty and a new era of stability symbolized by the iconic Tudor rose. But why does this centuries-old conflict still capture our imagination? Beyond the battles and politics, the War of the Roses teaches us about power, ambition, and the enduring human struggle for control and identity. It influenced literature, culture, and even the symbols we use today, reminding us that history is never far from the present. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the War of the Roses, please like the video, subscribe for more historical stories, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. What part of this turbulent era fascinates you the most? Let's keep the conversation going.